Good morning and welcome to episode number 34 of the Think Like a Marketer show, where we talk with marketers, entrepreneurs, and innovators and find out exactly what makes them think so differently and tips and tricks and resources. Today, I'm going to be covering how an ad agency created the diamond engagement ring. Before we get to that, I want to say thanks to our sponsor, randallchestnut.com, creator of the perfect marketing campaign blueprint. Just like when you build a house, you don't walk into an architect's office and say, I need a house. And he expect that he knows exactly or she knows exactly what you expect them to build. You have to give them a blueprint. And that's exactly what they do at randallchestnut.com. You go over there, you can get your 9 steps to building the perfect marketing campaign blueprint, along with a couple of templates over there. So you can go over there. Again, that's Randall Chestnut. That's CHESNUT. No T in the middle, 2 at the end, little in the middle, but it got much back. So today is, if you think about it, I'm married. I'm not anymore, but just like every other guy out there. And hey, before I get into that too, if you have comments, questions, just feedback, or you don't agree with the concept, or you don't agree, or you feel like that you were scammed by the diamond business when I'm done with this, just put your comments in there. Most of the time, you are going to be watching this after the replay because it is Wednesday, 10 o'clock, and I understand that people are working, but I got a schedule to keep, so I'm going to have the show. So, so check this out. First off, when you express your love and you want to share it with the person and let them know, hey, you are the person for me that I want to live with and spend my life with for the rest of the life. The actual ring has been around since medieval times, but this is something you may not have known, that the actual diamond part of it was just recently. I mean, we're talking back in the 30s, the early 1900s, that it became popular to give a diamond, but it wasn't a big diamond. It was just a little diamond. So I want to give you kind of some backstory because I think it's interesting because it shows how influential people can be, how it is that you can control a population just by showing that other people are doing. You've heard the saying, like when I was younger, right? And when you're younger, you said, well, Johnny, his mommy let him do it. And it was like, well, if Johnny was to jump off a cliff, would you? And after you hear this, you might have jumped off a cliff because Johnny did it. Because I don't know why, but humans, we have been innately wired to follow the herd. Now, not everybody follows the herd, and not always following everything the herd does, but for the most part, we do what the herd does. Ladies, let me ask you something, because I used to work, consult in the fashion industry. I have never met someone, and we're going to get to those diamonds. So I've never met a woman who have said that those Louis Vuitton shoes, the ones with the red soles that every woman wants or most women want, felt good. Right? So you got to ask yourself, well, when you wear a pair of shoes, do you want them to feel good? Apparently not, because people are paying $500, $800, $1,200 for a pair of shoes that really the only thing about those shoes that are different is the soles are red. Yes, the soles are red. And you know why? Because it shows everybody else that, hey, I'm important. I've got money. I have status. I have style. I'm classy. That's really why you buy the shoes. But who told you that red sole bottoms made you all those things? You guessed it. Marketing campaigns, ad agencies, they made you feel that way, right? And everything that we do in life, from the cars that we drive to the homes, and the ideologies that we have, are controlled by the person who gives the most amount of information into your head. And social media and news outlets and television, all of those people are vying for your attention. You know why? Because they know that they can control or manipulate. And sometimes when you hear the word manipulate, that sounds so negative, but they know that if they put the right information for them, whatever they think the right information is in the right person, they can manipulate them to do it. I mean, you see it if you watch any debate for our current president. And again, I'm going to get to those diamonds. And if you're on here, just make a comment so I know that you're on here. If that's Roby, hey, what's going on, Roby? Hey, thanks for coming on, my friend. Always nice to have you on. So the show today is going to be is about how an ad agency created the diamond engagement ring. And it's a fascinating story. And it's a really good case study to prove that if you don't have a marketing campaign where you understand your clients and understand or your ideal customer, and you don't understand what their needs are or how to create and fabricate needs, like fear, like cultivate fear or curiosity or belonging, you're not going to be successful in that. So I was talking about, shoes and fashion and this story about the diamonds, right? So expressing your love. So I want to back up a minute and say this, that one of the biggest assets in a married couple's relationship is the diamond engagement ring. And it's an emotional asset though. It's not a actual financial asset, because it's kind of like a car. As soon as you buy a diamond, it's worth 50% less, right? So just on the logical scale, right? Now, in this case, I'm going to say, let's pretend that we are De Beers. That's the company that we're going to be talking about, because they control the diamond business, right? So let's say that you are De Beers, right? And you have to figure out a way to convince people to buy a product that they think is very valuable, but have them never sell it, right? Because once they go to sell it, they quickly would find out that they actually really didn't have an asset. They had a huge liability. I mean, imagine buying a $10,000 ring. You think that it's going to be valuable. You get it appraised, you get it insured, and you find out 10 years later that it's worth like $5,000 if you were to go sell it on the open market, right? Because it's not valuable as you would think. So it's not even an asset, right? So here's what happened. The diamond business in the the late 1800s, like 1880, 89, 1890, they found a huge coffer of diamonds in South Africa. So the market was getting flooded with these diamonds, right? Now, let me back up and say that by this point, people were buying smaller diamonds, but it was, people who actually had a little money, and they weren't buying for the reasons that I'm about to describe. They were just buying them because they had money, right? And they weren't buying the sizes and spending the amount of money that I'm about to talk about, right? So here's where we find that the De Beers family, or the De Beers mining company, now had a problem. It's a supply and demand problem. Now they had a huge supply of these diamonds, which rested on diamonds being a rare item, which consequently they're not rare. They're just not flooded into the market because one company monopolized and controls the market and the amount of diamonds that goes out there, right? So I digress, because that's part of the story too. So now you find that the De Beers family, or the De Beers mining company, I say the De Beers family, but it's not a family, it's a cartel, has to figure out two things. Number one, they have to now figure out how they can control or monopolize the diamond pricing. And how are they going to do that? They have to control both the supply and the demand. So what they did on the supply side is they basically owned the diamond business and decided we're going to release a certain amount of diamonds out so we can control the supply. Because the old supply and demand part, the less supply there is and the more demand, the more valuable that item becomes, right? So you can imagine if there was a flood of diamonds but not a big demand, that's a problem for any business, right? And it was a problem for them. So now they had that problem figured out. The next problem they had to figure out is the demand side. How do they create a demand for these diamonds, right? So the De Beers hired an ad agency, NW Ayers, and they did this exhaustive study to figure out, research on what was the attitudes behind diamonds. How did people feel about diamonds? And for the most part, they appealed to a wide audience, but they found that the average person just thought it was out of their, their monthly budget, right? They couldn't spend it. The average American, like, it was just a luxury item, right? So, and so let me say this too. This was all going on during the Great Depression. We're talking in the 30s, right? They not only did they have to figure out the supply and the supply part in this demand, they had to figure out how to create a demand for a product during the Great Depression. Could there be any more taller order for you as a business? Hey, Susan. Hey, thanks for coming on. We're talking here again about how an ad agency created or invented the diamond engagement ring, right? So this ad agency, NW Ayers, had to figure out how are they going to get the average American. So now they had a problem, right? They had to figure out, how do we get someone to buy something that they don't need? And how do you get somebody to do something that they don't want to do or don't need? Yes, they appeal to their emotions, not their logical side, their emotional side. We see this on the television ads when they show, animals being cruelty to animals, and they want you to donate, or people somewhere in other parts of the world, and you donate like $5, and because they're appealing to your emotion, right? So they knew they needed to figure out, number one, how do they appeal to someone's emotional side to buy an expensive diamond, not a cheap diamond, an expensive diamond. Remember, they control the price of the diamonds. So that was problem number one. Problem number two for them was that they needed to make sure that they never sold the diamond, because once they found out how much the diamond was actually worth, it would quickly be a no-brainer. It was like, why would I buy something that I thought was valuable and it's not, right? So what do you think that ad agency came up with? I mean, okay, the story's already told. We already know. Engagement. They said, wow, what it has an emotional connection that we know that a man will go to the ends of the earth when he finds the woman of his dreams. Yes, I'm going to get to that yet. Susan kind of cut ahead in line with her comment, the 2-month salary. And who do you think invented that? Yes, exactly. So we're getting to that part. So you're familiar with the story. Maybe you're in marketing yourself too. So now they have, they figured it out, emotion, right? The man will do whatever it is, right? But there's a side that they also had to appeal to him. Is like, well, if he's given, it had to have romance. It had to have an air of wealth, like belonging, and actually say, hey, if I bought you this means that I really, really, truly love you, right? So they had to build this in the minds of the consumer. I mean, and it's usually the guy who buys it, but they need it to also appeal to the women and say they need it. Whatever a man will give a woman, whatever a woman wants. So the ad agency had to appeal to the female, saying, if you're going to marry me, I want a diamond, right? And it's like that today. You've probably seen the movie Blood Diamonds, and you know this story. And guess what? You still want a diamond. That is how powerful that they have ingrained this into the fiber of marriage and love and romance. That is how well NW Ayers has created this campaign. Wouldn't you like to have that in your business, that no matter what, they still would buy your product or your service, even knowing, number one, that it's not valuable, because it's not. Controlled market. The only reason it is valuable, and it's not rare. In fact, diamonds aren't even forever. We think that they're like, that they don't break or shatter, and they do. They chip, they shatter, they break, all of those things, right? So they're not even really forever. And they were a piece of coal before that. So remember, we're in the 30s, right? This is the Great Depression. They're having to convince people to do that, but they knew that love conquers all. right? So they knew they got that. So they got the emotional side of it. And so now what do they need to do? They needed to hire influencers, right? So they went out and they did a campaign. I want to say it was called Hollywood. God, I wrote it down here somewhere. Anyway, what they did is they created this weekly expose that they would send out to hundreds of publications showing movie stars or famous people that they looked up to, wearing diamonds. And then they would describe the diamond, the actual famous. So it'd be like Kim Kardashian does today. It was no different in the 30s than it is now. Influencers worked then and they work now. Again, because they ad and marketing people understand that if you're in business, you own a product or a service, you have to get someone to buy it from you first, right? You don't get to deliver a service until somebody actually pays you for it, unless you're a nonprofit, which I'm not advocating for that one right now. I'm advocating for a for-profit business. You need to get someone to buy your product. Before you can get somebody to buy your product, they have to feel like they need it, right? Or it solves a problem for them, right? And in this case, they created an emotional need. It wasn't even something they actually had to have. It was emotional need. Again, they created an air around the diamond. They built this whole campaign in the 30s and 40s during the war, all of those things. So you had guys coming back from the war that if you really loved her, you would buy her a diamond because diamonds are forever, like love, right? And it symbolized for the female. I'm not saying for all of you. This was the ad campaign, how much the man really loved you. Hey, if you find this interesting, just put a little high five in there. Most likely you're watching this on the replay, but I always go back and look at it. Hey, if you have a story of your own, please share it on how you were asked and did you get a diamond, and how do you feel about diamonds, females? I know how guys feel about diamonds. I'm going to tell you how I feel about diamonds before I finish this. I feel like it's a scam. I have always known it's a scam. Why is it a scam? Because we already told you. Number one, it's not worth whatever you pay for it, just cut it in half as soon as you get it, right? So financially. But you say to yourself, well, Randall, that's not all about money. Okay, well, okay. If it's not all about money, then what is it about? Because you can buy a cubic zirconia that looks exactly like that, flawless, sparkles way more. So is it the sparkle? No, it's not the sparkle. What it is that emotional romance behind what that diamond represents. And who made that? Who decided that a diamond was going to be that? We did. Collectively, we did. And how do we decide that? Because NW Ayers marketing agency told us to think that way. Just like the United States government told us that piece of paper that says $100 on it is worth $100. It's a piece of paper, right? Isn't it crazy? If you really think about all these things, if you think about money, who decided that it was worth something? Can you eat it? No. Is it good for writing on? No. You can write on it, but it's not good for that. What can you do with it, right? You had to collectively get a group of people to agree that I'm going to exchange you this for that. And then you could take that and exchange it for that, right? We had to collectively get society. So even our Federal Reserve and our government had to convince us that a piece of paper was worth whatever it says on it, right? Amazing, right? And De Beers Diamond Mining Company had to convince us that a diamond represented romance, an era of wealth, and actually how much he loved that female and how much, all of those things, right? When, feel free to put your comments in here and about how you feel about it. And I really want to hear from the females because I already know what the guys think. The guy will, when he decides to buy the ring, he only buys the ring because you want it. If you want it, if a bracelet, a diamond bracelet represented how much that someone loved you, they would be buying women diamond bracelets when they asked engagement. Or if it was a pair of shoes, then everybody would be buying, all guys would start buying shoes, right? I think that this campaign has been around so long that it has moved over into the tradition side. And once you move something into there, it's over. It's almost like when you ask, if you have a brand, you just, this is when you reach the pinnacle with your brand. When somebody says something like this, can you go Xerox this for me? Okay, so Xerox is the actual company. It's not like an activity, right? But everyone knows, or used to know. I mean, we don't probably use that anymore, but everyone knew if you said, go make a Xerox of this, what you meant. Or if you said, pass me that Kleenex. Kleenex was a brand, but it was so ingrained in your mind that Kleenex, what it was, everyone knew when you asked for a Kleenex. How about this one? If you ask for a Coke, Coke is a brand. I want a Coke. What kind of Coke? A Dr. Pepper. But okay, those are two different brands, right? You see how this stuff works? Hopefully, this is really my goal. Number one, just to make it interesting and to rise up, rile up the female base and say, I still want a diamond. Because ladies, you still want a diamond, even after you watch Leonardo DiCaprio in the Blood Diamonds show, you're like, yeah, but I still want it. And even after you know that it's total scam, you still want it. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why? Why do you want it? And Windex, exactly. Thank you. See, Susan is one of those rare breeds. Early on a Wednesday, she's interacting and she's got great ideas. Hey, thanks, Susan, for that. Windex, exactly. You tell somebody Windex, they know exactly what you mean. So to sum up all of why I came up with this topic is to let you know that whatever it is that you are offering as a service or a product, you have to, number one, figure out who it is that you're selling to. Just like Ayers did, they needed to number one, know what is the problem. And again, with the problem, they had a massive problem. De Beers, they had too much supply and not enough demand. So De Beers, as a business, figured out how to solve the supply side, right? That's the business side. They needed to hire a company to figure out how to create a demand for their product. And that's when they hired an agency. And that agency now had the problem of figuring out how do they get people to buy something that they don't need, something that is not even as valuable as it is implied, and convince them to never sell it. And when they did all this research, I mean, to us now, it seems like a no-brainer, but that wasn't part of it. I mean, they didn't think about that, right? But it was genius. So I want to know from you, is this campaign a genius or is it a scam? That's all you need to be, genius or scam. Hey, I hope this was entertaining. I hope it was enlightening for you as a product or a service, whether you're a real estate agent, a dentist, you're in marketing, to understand that you need to first do some research. If you ever are going to hire someone to handle your marketing, or if you're going to have either, whether they're internal or external, you'll know if they're good. This is how you'll know if they're good. If you go to them and you say, hey, I need you to handle my marketing and I want to do some Facebook. Let's just say that. If they don't if you don't allow, or they don't ask you to give them some time and they really do some research, and you both are part of that, understanding it, that campaign has a high likelihood of not working. You know, the term that 50% of your marketing is wasted. You just don't know what 50%. Well, it's usually the 50% that you didn't know who you were trying to sell to. So figuring out who you want to sell to is vitally important. So don't discount that, and be willing to pay somebody to do the research, because as you can see, the Beers family figured out a problem that most people would have gone out of business doing. And that company solved the problem that here we are 100 years later, and people are still begging to buy diamonds $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So is it genius or scam? Susan says, I don't know. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, genius. From just a logical standpoint, I mean, it's a little disingenuous, but still, I understand why now People want it. I mean, it's just ingrained. It's become like a Kleenex or Windex. It's just like, you want to marry me, you give me a diamond to show me. So what else would you give them though? I mean, if you think about it, what else would you give someone? And I don't know, maybe you give them something. Maybe not every woman wants a ring or a diamond, right? A diamond does symbolize like, hey, I'm taken. It doesn't have to be a diamond. I mean, men, we don't wear diamonds. We get a crappy old ring. That's all we get. If we want to get fancy, we can put some diamonds on it. For the most part, most men don't want no diamonds. They just want a ring. Ladies want to put as much bling bling on that hand, so if that girl just didn't notice, you know, the flash from that diamond hit her eyes and said, that's mine. Don't mess with it. Don't even try. So, hey, thanks again for allowing me to take just a little of your time, share this. Hopefully this gave you a different perspective, and more importantly, put some value into taking the time and understanding who it is that you're trying to sell to, and what are their problems. What do they fear? Everything about that person, because I promise you, once you figure that out, that all you have to do, like anything else, is figure out how you solve that problem or make them feel an emotion that they want. Whether it's, I mean, you see it with Donald Trump and any, first off, not just Donald Trump, every politician uses fear. Every politician uses fear because they know that that's a mover, that's a motivator, that's an emotional thing. They scare you into somebody's going to take your money or somebody's evading. I mean, it's going to be some sort of form of flavor of that, and depending on how they slice it. So if you're not already, go to Facebook and type in at the top, Think Like a Marketer Show, and go there and push the little button that says like and follow, so that you can join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. or at least be alerted and later watch. And as we bring on more people and we share fun ideas, and you get to share your ideas because it's a community. I love to hear what you have to say. I'm going to enjoy reading later some of the comments that I get regarding a diamond. Hey, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and see you next week.